before explaining authorization, we are going to look at this company. Let's look at this company called Contoso. Contoso is the famous domain that Microsoft usually, I don't know if they still use that domain. They use that as an example domain in their books, while they're teaching or server, transact SQL or mail exchange server. So they use Contoso. So I'm gonna, assume that we are dealing with a company named Contoso. And Contoso is the company that they design and they build car. Within the organization Contoso, we have some units or departments. We have the sales department. We have the production departments. We have the procurement departments, as well as the engineering departments. Of course, we might have more than these 4 departments, but to explain the why of using authentication and authorization meets Mr. Shatok. Don't laugh at that name. It's his name, respect his name. Now, so Mr. Shatok works at the sales department. And early in the morning, Mr. Shatok, just wakes up, full of energy after taking his coffee. So Mr. Shatok received a customer request for a new design. Contoso being a company that design and manufacture or build cars. Shatok got a new request. Okay. Now, after getting a request, Mr. Shatok is talking to Mr. Belizo. Again, respect Mr. Belizo name. It's his name. And I'm just selecting this name. I don't know if these are actual name or they are not. Even if they are actual names, I'm not breaking the law to use these names here. So I don't want somebody to comment on my video, hey, stop using my name, don't use my name in your video. Now, so Mr. Shatok send a request, or this may be via a system or using manual data processing, paper. He sends the request from the sales department to the engineering department. Hey, we got a new customer, he needs X car, or he wants a customized Lamborghini, or okay, so now the engineering team, they receive a request and they design a new product, and this may be one or multiple customers are waiting for that product. So Mr. Belizo is a doctor. Dr. Belizo, after designing a new product, he completed the design. Now he is ready to submit the BOM or the BOM. The BOM stands for Bill of Materials. So the Bill of Materials in a manufacturing company is actually what should be needed, what the engineering team need to complete or to design a specific product. He got all his bill of material ready, and the Dr. Belizo submits the bill of material to the procurement department. And the procurement departments, on their turn, we have Mr. Akol, or alcohol, but Mr. Akol is responsible, is one of the representatives in the procurement departments in charge of receiving a bill of material from the engineering team, and from the bill of material, he's gonna issue the material requisition form. Right. So after receiving the bill of material, Mr. Akol is about to issue the material requisition form, but he has 5 days. Within 5 days, Mr. Akol has to submit the material requisition form to the production. Now, Mr. Akol has a great job, he gave pay well, so, but Mr. Akol has been partying a lot. He's been drinking, He's been drinking with his buddy from the production. You will meet his friend. He's been having fun. Now, 10 days later, Mr. Akol realized that, the submission date is past due. He's supposed to submit the requisition form within 5 days, but it's been 10th day now. Mr. Akol cannot submit the requisition form. He's late. So he's freaking out. He's like, God damn it, what should I do? He called his friends from the production department. It's the production department. He's like, hey, yo. And then his friend, Mr. Tequila, is like, what's up? What's going on? How can I help you? Akol is like, man, he's just like, hey, man, I missed to submit the requisition form. It's past due. I can't do that. I just don't want my manager to know that, I'm late. So, I don't know if you can do that. And Mr. Tequila is like, bro, I got you, last night, been hanging, you know what happened last night, yada, yada, Mr. Tequila is actually a confident man, he's everywhere, he's just talking, But what Mr. Tequila doesn't realize is that he's actually infringing or violating the business rule, which states that the production must not submit the requisition form, the material requisition form. But because he's courageous, he's a brave man, he's like, oh no, I got you, bro, give me a second, I'll submit that for you. What's happening is that both the production and the procurement have access on the procurement system, or both of them can submit the material requisition form. As you can see in this case, material requisition table, it's not really a table because to submit that requisition form, maybe one the more table has to be taken into consideration. Yeah, but unfortunately, Tequila did that. He has to save his buddy, his friend. He submits the requisition form, and we have a problem because Tequila shouldn't submit that. On the other side, we have the procurement management guy notification from the system that, oh, by the way, Miss, you can see that we have the manager, Miss Sevi. I mean, Sevi is a French name. I mean, don't quote me on that. It's a French name. Actually, there are some ladies in French name. Okay, so we have Mr. Sevi. Mr. Sevi get a notification from the system that Mr. Tequila has submit a past due requisition for material requisition form. And what's happening in this scenario, we do have a authentication on the system without authorization or permissions. This is where authorization comes into play. So we have to fix it. We have to fix it because in this case, you can see that Miss Sevi, who is the manager, I can't say the Mrs. Sevi. Mrs. Sevi sounds, sounds familiar, but so Miss Sevi discovered that Tequila has submit a requisition form. She's pissed because Miss Sevi doesn't get along well with Miss Tequila because Miss Tequila is talkative, he talked trash about everybody in the company. He was just like, how can Tequila submit the requisition form? I was expecting iCall to do that. Yeah, so we gotta fix that. Now, before I go to the demonstration, we can see that the utility of using permission in a system or authorization consists of restricting a context-bound domain from executing or completing tasks that are out of the specific entity or the specific organization unit. And I know some of you will be like, oh, that's easy if we are doing microservice. I know what we're about to say. You know, it's easy with microservice. With domain-driven design, we can isolate those organization units, thereby restricting the kilo to submit the requisition form, because it's gonna be easy for those of you that are the network engineer. Oh, bro, that's easy. You know, if I create a subnets between procurement and another subnets and the production, and I restrict them to access, they won't be able to access this system. In a real world scenario, you will see that the authorization, the authentication usually happen within one system. The majority of systems, they use the dept authorization, where the email of every employee in the organization are located with the Active Directory or the Lightweight Active Directory if they're using Linux operating system, or Active Directory if they're using Windows. In that case, if there is no permissions, Tequila will still be able to authenticate himself and being able to submit the requisition form, because all of them are authenticated by the one source of truth, if I can say, Active Directory, or using a one third-party authentication system, you know, like via Google, you know. I mean, if you go to the enterprise, it's really difficult for it's if now I've never seen that, if not impossible to see them using Google or using a third party. They usually have a, you know, Active Directory, the the X509 system, any Active Directory LDAP to authenticate the user. Okay, unfortunately, the manager, Miss Sevi, were able to see Takilo, you know, submitting a requisition form. That's a problem, so we need to fix that. I'm going to create a scope, the scope of this demonstration of this video. We need to bear in mind that there is a gray area or different milestone that should be taken into consideration to design a system that will solve this problem. By milestone, I'm referring to different milestones that might be applicable while designing a system. We have the network part, we have the data analyst and reviewing different departments. We have the network folks setting up, you know, network within or between different departments, restricting access, you know, creating subnetting using router. We have the database design, we have the development, you know, all these. But for the sake of this demonstration, I'll be focusing on data modeling and development. I'm not going to talk about networking. I'm not going to talk about data collection. There is also a way to do that if the business can only change a rule, right? Both the production and the procurement can submit a requisition form. This won't be a problem. So there are different ways to solve the problem, but I'm gonna solve the problem in data modeling and development. Okay, now let's go to the demo. I'm gonna try to create a small Django project where I will start creating tables, trying to emulate the procurement departments, the way an employee can submit a requisition form. Okay, let's go. I am going to go on my terminal. I'm gonna go create an application. Let's see where I am. I am right here. Let me go on CRT because I want to make sure that I'll use the same environments. Which one is let's go do CRT this is the old one, Python 3.9. The new one is the certib.env. This one's probably like a 11 or something. Certib.env. This one is Python 12.3.12. So we are going to use these environments. But before we do, what am I doing? Okay, so I'm gonna create a folder name Django perms. Perms stand for permission. Okay, and I'm gonna cd onto the folder, and yeah, I'm going to activate this environment. Should I do that? Let me see the Python version I'm using. Python 3.11 exit. So I'm gonna do Python 3.12. Oh no, Python 3. Yeah, okay. So the Python 3 is default to 12.7. It's still the old version. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna create the environments variable. I'm gonna create the Python environments within this Django permission folder. If I can remember again, Python 3 module virtual. Oh yeah, I'm gonna create a virtual environment, and I'm gonna name that permission environment. Luckily for me, it looks like I've done that times and times. I can still remember the Python. I'm going to activate the virtual environment. So to activate that, I'm gonna do source perms environments being activate. So it's activated. If I say which Python, it's gonna be this Python from I'm using a Python environment from the permission environment. Okay, now I can do I can use pip. I can say which pip. Okay, pip install updates. Trying to update the pip is available. Pip install. Okay, this is the one I need to run. Install upgrade pip. I could use the UV. UV is the better way of managing your package. Is the new module, the new Python package manager, built with Rust. I've tried that before. It's pretty good, but I'm still using my old style of installing Django. Okay, so update pip, and then I'm gonna do pip version. So 25, I got the new version. Pip install Django REST framework. Okay, Django REST framework. So I'm gonna use the Django and the Django REST framework. Django is the web framework, and the Django REST framework is the application within Django framework. So Django is the parent, and the Django REST framework is an application. Okay, I'm gonna install both of them. Django REST framework. Okay, could not satisfy the version that okay, so he had download Django, but I didn't download Django REST framework because I didn't write that correctly. Okay, so now we are downloading Django Web Framework. Okay, so we download Django Web Framework to confirm that we have Django Web Framework. We can go check that on the beans. We go on Python cd. No, here. Let's go on lib. Python 3.12. If we cd onto sites package. Sites package. Okay, so we have Django REST framework 3.16 and we have the Django. So actually this module, this Python module Django is the parents of the Django REST framework. For those of you that work with Django REST framework, you already know what I'm talking about. Okay, now let's create a project. God knows if I can remember again how to create a project. Hopefully I do. So we are not gonna create a project on this this is the environment. What I do, I create the project side by side with the environment, so I may move them easily. You know, I can move my projects and I move the environments or leave the environments, and being able to, you know, to know the difference between the environments and the project. So since Django is installed, what I'm gonna do Django admin starts project. Maybe that's the correct word, and then I'm gonna call that Django perms. Okay, so we're starting a project within Django perms. Django perms stand for Django permission. No, it sounds weird, but hey, bear with me. Django. Now from here, we have our Django projects created. Cd. Where are we? So okay, so we are on okay, so we have our projects right here. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna cd onto the project, and then I'm gonna call charm so I can run the pycharm. Okay, so I need to run the pycharm right here. So which tell pycharm to run. Trust these projects. Oh, by the way, pycharm is currently running a promotion. So you have 30%. I'm not gonna get anything from that, but you have 30% off if you download pycharm, and that 30% will go supporting and funding the Django projects. I'm just being grateful because of Django. I learned a lot from Django. It's not everything about web framework, but if you do that, that's the way you can support Django. This Windows, yes, we wanted to open on this Windows. So I have launched my new project. As you can see, it's empty. We don't have an application, but we need to create an application. What I do, I try to, because the majority of projects starts as a monolithic application, meaning that different future departments will be an application, and as the project grows, the project gets bigger, you can separate them. But we don't have, you can separate and decouple them by creating microservice. Microservice sounds good, but the real implementation of microservice is not easy. Those who know, they know it's not easy. It's good to say microservice. It's not easy to do microservice in the real world. So what are we gonna do? We have to confirm, because as you can see at the bottom here, we're still using Python. It looks like our ID is still trying to find the Python 3.9. Let's see the terminal. Yeah, we don't have any we don't have an environment, the specific environment for this project, so we need to specify the environment. I'm gonna go quickly on the settings. I'm gonna look for projects, right? Interpreter, and I'm gonna add interpreter, add local interpreter. I'm gonna look for, so I don't want to create this one, because if I create this one, if I click OK, the ID will automatically create the virtual environments. So I want to use my own virtual environment that I created with the Python 3.12 existing one. I'm gonna search for the existing one, which is on user, right here, user jcooler, where Satib. I'm looking for the folder name Satib, but I can't find it. Yes, I found it. So I'm gonna go on Django permission, and I'm gonna select the permission environments, beans, and I'm gonna Python 3.12. That will be our interpreter. Okay, and apply. Okay, let's close this and try again if it's gonna recognize that. Now it's searching our interpreter. Bingo! It automatically find our environments, and it activates our environments using the interpreter we selected. So from here, if I issue a command, Python, or first of all, I have to say which Python, and then it's telling me that the Python you're using is the Python environments under Django permission, which is good. And then I can see that I have my manage.py. I can issue Python manage.py, creates an app. I'm gonna name this application Procurement. Or actually, to create an app, we don't use create app, we use the starts app. That's the command, starts app. Procurement. Bingo, we should have a new application name, Procurement. If we go on the settings still pointing on creating a SQL. As far as creating a database, we'll be creating a database, a file database, SQLite. Don't get me fooled, SQLite is not as negligible or non-important, if I can use that concept, as the majority of people think. SQLite can be powerful if you know how to use that, mostly on embedded system. Okay, so we are going to use our database. We now point on Postgres, as I've been using on my projects. My project's still here, I'm still working on that project. I'm not done yet. I wouldn't say anything, but we're making progress. Cool. So we got our procurement application. The first thing you need to do when you add a new application, we have to add it right here. Install app. We have procurement. We also have the Djangorestframework. So REST framework. I don't know if that's the way. I don't know if that's the way to add the Django framework. Let me see if I am correct on that. I'm gonna open my project. I open this project, new window. Right here, I'm gonna check something. Okay, so it's REST framework with the underscore. Where the REST framework is the module that we install, which is an application that Django web framework use that facilitate creating REST API in Django. You can use REST API in pure Django if you know what you're doing, but REST framework is more modular. It has more features, you know, the fact that it can decouple from the Django framework, who is the parent, it makes it, you know, more useful. So we have the procurement, and then I'm gonna create another app. So the procurement represents the procurement department, and another app I'm gonna create. I'm gonna name that Python manage create app or start app production, because the production, this is where Mr. Takilo will be working. Mr. Takilo will be working on the production, and Mr. Alcohol will be working on procurement. Both of them get fucked up big because they infringe on data consistency or data integrity. You know, Takilo shouldn't submit the requisition form on behalf of alcohol because both of them, they've been partying, they love the job, but they party too much. We are going to see how we can restrict an employee from a procurement group, organization units to create or to touch on anything that are production or vice versa. Okay, so we have our new app production. It's okay, we can just add them. We can just edit here, production. Because production is a generic word, it's better if you create something like this, you have to say production team. Okay, not every company use Django, but Django is a pretty strong, even if I still start doubting, because I wouldn't say that much. There's something that I have to shut my mouth, but it's a good web framework you can use to create your application. I'm using that for my project, the project that I've been spending time, probably like I'm almost done with my project. I'm waiting from people, those that wear tie, you know, and talk too much and tell you what to do about your project. I'm waiting for them, but hey, you know, no rush. I'm here. I'm still there, standing strong. Whatever happened. Cool. Now, what do we do when we create application? We want to make sure that, you know, our application is running, right? So we're gonna do Python manage run server. We haven't done the initial migration yet, but I can run the server. Run server. As you can see, they're saying the development server do not using the production setting, use the production whiskey or XK7 instead. For more information, yeah, so they're just giving a heads up that's, you know, when you're using the development server, they're not using the production. I know why they're saying this, because a lot of this new developer, and I don't want to sound like I'm better than anybody, but with the advent of using pod or Docker, some of the people, they really don't know how to deploy Django on the production. They will just deploy the development server on production, data ports on a real Nginx server, and they start working on that. It can be done, right? You run the dev server on the production and you think you're running, you have to configure whiskey or ASCII. This web, the S stand for, I forget, but gateway interface, right? Or the asynchronous server gateway interface, something like this, right? These are different standard, the way you can deploy the synchronous and the asynchronous server on the production. So that's the message they're just giving me. They also give me a message, you know, you have a 18 apply migration. You know, your project may not work until you do those migration. The migration, creating admin sites, creating the auth, the content type, the session, you know. So to do that, I can do this. I have to do my initial migration, Python manage.py migrate. So this initial migration creates some fundamental tables or essential tables that allow this project to use permission and the user, like the auth table, the content type, which handles permissions, and the session, you know. Okay, so that's being done. We can run server again. So I think to remove this, I need to do some configuration on my WSGI server. I think everything is fine. Let me see what I did right here. Nothing special that I've done. Everything looks fine. Oh, they're just giving this because of deployments, you know. I mean, I can leave that. It doesn't matter. Okay, now let's create some tables, because we need to create some tables. Those tables will represent, you know, where the user has to update data or create new records, you know, so that the business makes sense. So we are going to create some table on procurement. I'm not going to create a lot of tables, you know, because even creating the requisition form, it's not that easy. It's not just a one form, you know. You have to know who wrote it, what is the reason of issuing the requisition form. So there are a lot of business rules that need to be taken into consideration to create this table. It's not one table, it should be more than one table, should have said. Okay, so let's create the table. I don't know. Okay, I'm gonna import. We have model, right? How to create. I've been working on JavaScript for a long time now, you know. I'm gonna call this table, let me see the name of the table. I'm gonna call this table requisition. Okay, we have the model requisition as requisition ID, which gonna be a model big integer field, unique true, primary key true. So that will be the requisition ID. What else do we need? For requisition dates, it's gonna be a model. You know what? I'm gonna make sure that the requisition ID will be automatic. Let's go to the app. Yeah, Django big auto field. So the requisition will have an ID that will be automatically increments by 1. Model date time field, requisition dates. This one we can make that auto now add, so it can be automatic. Auto now add, right? Yeah, let's make it auto now add true, meaning that it will be automatic. What else? We need the departments, the department's ID, and by departments. Okay, let's do this. Before we create this model, let's check our, let's make sure that our project is running, make sure that the admin, we can see the Django project. I'm gonna run that, and it looks that it's running as expected. Chrome. Okay, as you can see, our project is running. So if I go to admin, I'll need a password. I don't have a password here because I haven't yet created the user. I need to create a user. So let's go quickly create a user. We are going to create a super user. Django, Python, admin, create super user. I'm gonna name it. Okay, I'm just gonna name it Jcooler. What are they saying? They say, I'm gonna create that interactively. Okay, it's gonna be Jcooler, pass email. It's gonna be, I'm gonna use my old email, password. Oh, it didn't match. I'm just gonna create password. Don't do that, please. See, the system say your bypass validation create a user anyway. See, they say the password is common, so don't create a password. But I'm just gonna do that so it can be easy for me to remember that. Okay. Before I continue, I wanna dedicate this video to nobody. I'm kidding. Not yet. Okay, cool. Now we have our super user. If we want to log into the admin so we can create, because what I'm trying to do right here, the department should be a group from Django contrib auth model imports group. Okay, department ID will be model foreign key group on delete model cascade. Okay, so but let's go back on the website so we can see if we can log in with the newly created password. The username is Jcooler and the password is password. Again, don't ever in your life create a password with password. Don't ever password with the password. So now we are on, never say. Now we are on our admin site. As you can see, we have a group. This is where we are going to create organization units. The reason I'm using on the quotation because there is a way we can map the actual organization units from the LDEP onto our Django project. But for the sake of this demonstration, I'm just gonna use the organization. I'm just gonna create a group to represent the organization units. Okay, let's create a new group. I'm gonna create a new group. I'm gonna name that group Procurement. It's create, so I'm gonna create another group. I'm gonna name that Production. Okay, so we got two groups. On the user side, we have Jcooler, who is an admin. Okay, so let's go back to our backend, continue creating the model. I don't know how long it's gonna take me, but I'll make sure I make it shorter because we are already on 1 freaking hour. if not 50 some minutes. So we have the department ID, which represents a group. We have a request by. This is where the name of Mr. Tequilo, Mr. Alcohol will be displayed from Django, contrib, auth, model, imports, user. Again, in the real world scenario, when you're doing serious or building serious enterprise application, this user will be synchronized from a third-party authentication system, or you're going to use the in-house Active Directory or Lightweight Active Directory to sync the user with the existing user from a single source of truth, which is the Active Directory. But what happens with Active Directory, if your Active Directory get hacked, the system is done. That's the unfortunate truth, but it is what it is. Okay, cool. Model, foreign key. So one user may have one or multiple requisitions, so it's going to be a foreign key. User on delete cascade, meaning that if the user goes out, its relating or requisition will be gone. Request by status. The status, because the requisition should be approved by probably the manager. The manager should approve the requisition, or the sales department should approve the requisition. And then when the status change, the procurement department will get a green light to go buy those materials. What are some of the status we can create for? We can create model choice. I'm gonna make it chart feed max 20. So this one will be accepted and denied. Okay, I mean, I shouldn't do this, but I'm just so I can make quick and finish with this. And justification meaning that why are you issuing this requisition form? Because you got a new customer, he's a billionaire, you want to customize his Toyota, yada yada. Justification. For me, my justification here, whatever you want to say. Model, chart feed, it's going to be a text feed. Text feed. Okay. I mean, we can stop here because I don't want to get this video to go long. The sole purpose of this video to demonstrate authentication and authorization. I'm going to demonstrate that, not like, people do that. Once we get into authorization and authentication and authorization, you will know why a lot of people do it wrong, really, really wrong. The majority of them, they don't even know what they're doing. Because it's confusing, but the one thing you need to know, there is no permission without authentication, right? You have to authenticate the person before giving them permission. Okay, cool. I'm just gonna stop here. Let's just make this one table. Python. Now we need to migrate. Python manage, make migration. Let's migrate. Python migrate. Okay, so we migrate our face table. Now what do we need? We need to insert some data into this. Now before we insert data, I'm going to create a REST API endpoint whereby we are going to insert data. on requisition. We just need the status, justification. Request bar is going to be automatic from the user that requesting that department ID from the group. And then we're going to go talk about permission or permissions. Cool. Let's go create our serializer. Okay, so right here in the procurement, we're going to create a new file, name that serializer. Okay, we're going to call that from here. We're going to create, we are going to import from REST framework on serializer, imports model serializer class. We're going to name that requisition serializer. Implements or inherits property requisition. Why are you avoiding the word requisition? What's wrong with requisition? Okay, it works now. Requisition serializer. Class meta. We're gonna use the model requisition from here. Model imports requisition. That's the model we're gonna use. Okay. Okay, cool. Let's do this. I'm gonna try. Okay, I'm gonna modify that letter. The field is gonna be our feed. Or I could do something like a ID. You know, for those of you who know, they know what I'm talking about. But I'm gonna import all the feed. That's about it. About the requisition serializer. The serializer will bridge the data from the user request to the model or the Django query set, which creates an API between the database and the Python. I don't want to get into details, but the serializer is between, it's between the view and the database. The view is the router. If you're using any other framework like whatever, but the majority of projects or framework, they use the concept of router. In Django, we use the word view. The view is a router or the initial points that to receive a request from the user. Okay. Now we got a serializer. How do you create a view again? I'm gonna go right here, create a view. Okay, so what do we need? What are some of the actions we need from a requisition? We need to write and read. By writing and read, I'm being a little bit technical, but create, updates, and delete. Okay, that's what we need to do. So I'm gonna go on. I'm gonna create a class right here. I'm gonna name that requisition. Let me name that requisition. Yeah, I'm gonna use I'm gonna use that requisition APIView. So I'm gonna import the generics. I like generics from even if Django model view set is better. I wouldn't say better. It's more complete in terms of features and easy to use. But I like generics because with generics you can do a lot of customization on your router or endpoints. Django model view set, if you don't know how to use Django model view set, you can expose a lot of data in the public, and those data you're exposing can allow hackers to know what you're doing and attack your website. And I'm not going to talk about security now, we're talking about authorization. I mean, authorization is part of security, but I'm going to use generics. So from Djangorestframework, please use generics. Generics is better because with generics, you know exactly what you're doing. With Django model view set, you're just copying and pasting, you're exposing data on a response. I don't know. Unless you know how to customize it. If you don't know, you're doing yourself a disservice. Generics, imports. Oh yeah. We import from Djangorestframework, imports generics. And requisition, APIView. I'll do generics, create, and we're going to list and create. So we are going to get data and create. Now, we are going to, this one, we are going to list and create for this one. That's the first thing we're going to do. To create, we need to first of all, we need to list. To list, we can retrieve, right? We can implement retrieve, def retrieve, or let's do rest. Let's do get request. Oh, he can recognize retrieve. My bad. Gates retrieve or gates are interchangeable. We can use both of them. Request formats none. Place arguments. This is the way I create my gates. Requisition equal to, we have to import our serializer. From here, serializer imports requisition serializer. Okay, so what am I doing? I cannot get if there is no query set. So to get the query set, this requisition will be, we need to import requisition model. From here, model imports requisition. Requisition will be requisition model object. You want to get, right? And this gates we are getting, it's not a detailed gates, it's a list gates. We are getting all the requisitions. And we're going to have a serializer equal requisition serializer. We call requisition serialize. We pass the requisitions list. We pass the context. It's not requisition. The context object request. The difference between using generics or using gates and using a retrieve will automatically pass a context if you are using you are passing the property serializer. But since we are using gates, we have to pass the context ourselves. Request gates. From here, we can just return serializer. We can return the response, status and the response. Okay. Imports response. Okay, cool. So we response serializer data. So we already get the data. We can even do data right here and send serializer back. Okay, that's our get. But we can't get if we cannot create. So we're gonna create def post. We can do this that way. This one is the same. Don't freak out. Keyword arguments and list arguments, it's the same. So I can do this. I mean, keyword arguments and list argument are not the same. I'm talking about in terms of signature of a function. So we can do this. It's still gonna work. So what are we doing on the post? If we wanna post a new requisition, serializer equal requisition serializer. Now, instead of the data coming from the database, the data will come from the user. So we're gonna pass the request data to serialize those data. Context request equal request. If serializer is valid, yeah, we have to save. So this is where we're supposed to save. We return response, serializer data, status, HTTP 201. Some people say 201, but 201 it's not English, it's 201. Return response, serializer, error. If there is an error, we pass status, HTTP bed request 400. Okay, so now let's create our requisition. To create our requisition, we have a requisition, but we don't have a URL. That's why I like doing testing, because when I'm doing testing, I can know that the requisition API has a URL, you know. But since I'm not doing testing, I can't do testing right here. I'm just gonna go right away on, we're gonna create a URL patterns. That's what Django looks for. Let's see. From REST framework, URL pattern imports format suffix patterns. Suffix patterns overwrites the default router on the Django default routers. So that's why I'm using that. I'm gonna create a suffix pattern, and then I'm gonna import path. I also need path from Django URL. From Django URL imports path. We have our path, our name, that's requisition. We need a requisition view. From here, view imports requisition APIView, and we have the requisition as APIView, and we have to name it. Name equal requisition. Okay, we got that one. So if we want to import, if we want to set the URL for requisition, we can just pass the path right here, path. We have imports, path, and includes. So we're going to include procurement. Hopefully it does add that. let's go back to our view, procurement URL. Now we're gonna try to test that. Let's try to test that. I'm gonna use Postman. It's been a while since I used Postman. Okay, let's try to test that. I'm gonna try to do this get http /127.0.0.1 for 8000 requisition. Let's see. What does it say? It say we got an error. Query set object has no attribute status. Okay, cool. I said the serializer might be named incorrectly. Okay, so it looks like we need to pass the property query set on this generic. It looks like it needs a requisition object. And then I'm gonna fix this. I'm gonna fix what's happening here. Let's try again. Let's get query set has no the error is on okay, there's something I'm missing right here. Okay, let's try many true. Okay, cool, it works. So it was fine. We got no requisition, as you can see. Let me go back here. As you can see, we call requisition, return nothing. If I go back right here, and I try to show you if we can find, if we go on Python manage, db shell, if we select count off from, let's do this. Okay, maybe I don't know what I'm doing. Let's do Auth user. Okay, so we have one user, right? This is what I was looking for. We have one user. If we select username, ID from Auth user, that's the name of the table I was looking for. We have jcooler, his ID is 1. So if we want to create a new record for requisition, let's go on the model. We need the date. It's going to be automatic. We need the departments. With procurement is ID 1, right? If we select from, let's do this, dot tables. Okay, so I'm surprised I can still remember these comments. So we have user groups or auth group. So if we select auth from auth group, so we have procurement ID 1 and production ID 2. So to create a new record quickly, I'm gonna do post, and there is no authentication here. It's only this endpoint is open to the public. Anybody can post, which is something you should do in production. Okay, so we want to post to requisition. What are we gonna post? We're gonna post body. We're gonna post to JSON. So let me show you what we need to post. We need to post request by the user, the status, and the justification. These are the fields that are required. Justification, status, request by, and department ID. So let's start with department ID. So we got department ID. It's gonna be one procurement. We have requested by. I'm gonna use the user number 2. We have only one user. User number 1, ID 1, status. Actually, the better way to do that, we can do that line by line. Status should be default pending. What is justification? Production code 9/2022 kicks off. Kicks off for products ID 1810. Just justification, just a code and a. We need this requisition form to be submitted, approved, because we want to kick off the production of products 1110. So we need that. And then from here, we can just post. Boom, we got a new error. They say post, the URL doesn't end with slash, so the URL has to end with slash right here. That's the error we get. Justification field required. This was not justification. What am I writing here? Justification requested by this require. I didn't type that correctly. Send. Boom. So now we create our new record. But there is no authentication. We need to make sure we authenticate anybody trying to a requisition form. Okay, so now we need to authenticate, right? We need to make sure that only people that are authenticated, they will be able to create a requisition form. To do that, we're gonna go to our settings. Go to our settings. Now, we need to know that there is no permission without authentication, right? If someone knock on your door, knock, knock, and you answer, who's that? If they say, my name is John. Now, you can authenticate John. There's a different way to authenticate, right? You're probably going to say password. They say whatever they can say. But if you know John, or if you know the voice of John, you will know that, oh, John is somebody I know. I'll give them permission to enter my house. But if you don't know the voice of the John, that's the person saying John, you won't give them permission. So there is no permission or there is no authorization without authentication. You got to first authenticate who's knocking on the door. Okay, now we need to do authentication to restrict the endpoints. Only people that authenticate, they'll be able to log in and create a requisition form. To do that, we are going to add some configuration in our setting file. Django setting, I know the majority of you guys know that. This is not something new. we're getting there. We're getting there where things will get more interesting. REST framework, we create a dictionary. Now, remember, in this case, instead of using default permission, I'm gonna use default authentication classes. So what are the classes I will use? First, I'm gonna use the token from the Django, the token authentication from the Django REST framework application, authentication, token, authentication. Okay. I'm gonna use the token authentication. What else I'm gonna use? Let's just use the token authentication, and maybe we are going to use. Okay, so I think I'm gonna use both of them. I need to use the simple JSON web token authentication and the token authentication because I want to be able to refresh the token. So we gotta go back right here where we are. We are going to add. We're gonna add REST framework. Simple JSON web token authentication dot JSON web token. I used to use JSON web token authentication. It's not bad, but I prefer using Nox because Nox use the SHA-256 authentication, and Nox packages or relating packages like a crypto, they get updated about the evolution of cryptography using different cipher to sign your token. We're not going to talk about that, but let's just talk about the JSON web token. It's not also bad, it's secure enough if you know how to use that. Okay, so this is our authentication classes. We are going to use the token authentication and the JSON web token authentication. The token authentication will allow us to create a token from the user object. The JSON web token authentication will allow us to use a token, but in the context of scope and also using things like you're refreshing a token, we can exclusively use the token authentication, but it's better when we use the JSON web token so we can refresh the token just in case the token expire. I know I'm just bombarding you with words. If you're new to Django, it's okay. If you didn't go to school before you started programming, it's okay. Just, if you didn't go to school exclusively to become a programmer, you just need to do some research, you get better on that. Okay, cool. Now let's go create our authentication. If we do this, let me show you this. If we go on our view right here, if we do something like this, if somebody to create and list on requisition, we need a permission class, and the permission class, we need them to be face authenticated. Remember, there is no authorization without authentication. Okay, so we need to, from REST framework imports from, I want to make sure that I keep recording. From REST framework permission imports is authenticated. meaning that only the user that is authenticated will be able to get and post a requisition. Okay, cool. Now let's go. Let's try again. Now that a user must be authenticated, let's try and see if we can be able to get. So if we go on the get, we want to get. We're now running the server. Let's run the server. Let's get requisition. Oh, we don't need. So what we're getting the error, because we haven't installed. We're gonna go back. We haven't installed the simple JSON web token, so that's why we're getting this error. So we need to install this package or this module. We're gonna do that by doing pip install restframework. Pip install pip install okay, Python minus runserver. Okay, cool. I think it can recognize it now. If we go back, I have to install the correct package because the package I was using was not correct. So, boom. Okay, now if we test, this is what we're gonna see. We are going to see something a little bit different. We're gonna see that to get the requisition, authentication credential were not provided, meaning that the user needs to be authenticated to get the requisition list. Okay. Now, who needs to be authenticated? Normally, the person that needs to be authenticated should be any employee coming from the procurement department. But in our case, we haven't yet specified if only employees from procurement departments has to be authenticated to view the requisition form. Meaning that even if an employee named Takilo, and I'm just making fun of that name, or John from the production department, if they're authenticated, they will be able to see the requisition list. Okay? Now we are going to demonstrate how somebody who's authenticated will be able to view the requisition form. To do that, we have to go back to the backend. Now we know we need authentication. We are going to, and if we remove this line, we go back. Now we can get the list of requisition, and if we bring it back, we need authentication. So let's create a class name. We're gonna call this class custom auth token. Custom auth token. The custom auth token it will implement obtain auth token from the Djangorestframework, from Djangorestframework, auth token. of token view imports obtain token. So we obtain our token. And this is the endpoints we are going to use to authenticate the user so we can obtain the token. We're gonna customize the verb post serializer equal self serializer class data equal request, meaning that we're gonna receive a password and a username, and the context objects will get the request, and the request serializer is valid. If serializer is valid, if not, raise exception through. User will come from serializer validate data user. So for those of you that know the way the JSON web token works, it creates a token from a specific signature, specific objects. I forget the word they use those. I forget the correct word they use for those property of these objects. There is a word they use to create a JSON web token. Okay, so we got that one. Token created equal, we need to import the token objects from the Auth model. So from REST framework Auth model imports token. This is where we're going to create our token. Token creates objects. Objects, we're going to create a token from the user. So we're going to get or create. I prefer to use get and create because if the token already exists, we bypass. If it doesn't, we create a new one. We have to create a refresh token. Refresh token, we get that from the JSON web token. From REST framework, simple JSON web token, tokens, imports refresh token. So we're gonna use the refresh token. And what is the refresh token? The refresh token is the token you send back to the endpoints to get you a new token. I'm not gonna show you the technique I use so you can track the token expiration. There is a way to do that. Every time the user send the request, you can check when the token is about to expire 5 minutes or 10 minutes. You can use the refresh token, and then you're gonna replace the token to the newly issued. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna say it again. There is a technique to use, which I will not demonstrate in this video. That technique consists of tracking the token expiration time from the time that it has been issued. And once the token is about to expire, 5 to 10 minutes, that's the moment you can use the refresh token to get a new token and start using the newly issued token until that token is about to expire to you, issue the new refresh token, and back and forth. And that doesn't take you to go to Django. It takes your own technique, the way you can manage that with your browser or with your server. Okay, refresh token dot for user user, and that's our refresh token, and then we return response. Response is gonna contain token. What I do, I avoid using the word token in the response because for those of you who may not know that, the RSA encryption is already obsolete. The quantum computer can decrypt anything you're sending using the RSA encryption. So for those supercomputer out there that be able to track any back and forth response, you want to make sure you avoid the word token, because if this has been captured, the script may look for the word token and see how they can see that. You can call that bonanza, right? You can call that anything that will not make sense. But for the sake of this video, just let's call it token. Token will be token key. We get the key. User ID will be user public key. Access, that will be our token, will be string. Refresh access token, and refresh will be string of refresh. Sometimes what I do when I'm sending this token, I can base64 encode that with the salt. What do you mean by salt? Base64 encoding that's never salt. A salt is anything that you add to a rounding of a cipher to make it more difficult to decrypt. What I will do, I base64 encode this one, I remove some of the character, I add a random string, and then I send it back. When I send it back, I get that base64 encoding, I add my salts back, or I remove the salts, I add those characters that I added, and I decrypt that to get the code. It's just simple, right? If you remove some of the character in base64 encoding, it's become meaningless. It's really difficult for the computer to guess which character you remove. If you know what you're doing, you know. If you don't know what you're doing, you're lost. Cool. That's our custom token. Now we need to use this URL somewhere in our view. To do that in our view, right here, we can create a path. We name that. How are we gonna name our path? Let's name our path API/authenticate user. View, we can also import from view, we can also import custom token. So we call custom auth token as view name custom token. Okay, so now we need to try our endpoint so we can make sure that we are getting the token using a username and password. Okay, to do that, let's try that right here. Let's try that on okay. Yeah, as you can see, make sure guys you subscribe and you share the video. Okay, let's go right here. We are going to use this URL API authenticates. That's the URL we'll be using. What are we gonna send? We are going to send a username, and the username will be Jcooler, and the password. What I do to avoid your password being intercepted between, even if you're using TLS transport secure layer or TSL transport secure layer, even if you're using encryption, I make sure I don't send the password in plain text. A base 64 encoder with probably 3 rounds, a base 64 encoder with some salt, so that when I'm sending that, it can only be decrypted on the other side. That's some technique you can use, just adding different layers of security to your text. Yes, it will be encrypted if you're using HTTPS, but for some reason, I wanna do more. Okay, the password will be password, and if we do this, we get an error. It looks like we didn't configure our URL correctly. We need to see what we did. Okay, cool. I know what's happening. Okay, so what's happening, we don't have the Auth token model, so we need to migrate that. X6, Python, manage, migrate. We need to do a lot of migration so we can migrate, create the Auth token model in our admin. What we will notice now in the admin page, if we go back to the admin, we refresh, you can see that we have our token right here. We need this to save our tokens. Okay, the reason why we had to migrate that. Now make sure that when you add the rest of framework-simplejwt token, when you're heading on the application, make a migration the way we did for our admins and Auth. We need to migrate. Okay. Now, if we try to get the password, if we try again to get the password, there we go. Now, by using the username and password, we were able to get the access token and the refresh token. Now, for the sake of this video, I'm not going to demonstrate the way you can get your refresh token, put it in the browser. You know what's up, right? So just copy it somewhere. We're going to copy it somewhere. We are going to copy it on somewhere in the text file. I'm copying that somewhere in the text file. But we are going to grab our token. If we grab our token, and if we go right here to get the requisition, as you can see, authentication credential were not provided. We're getting probably the code is 401 unauthorized. But if we go on better token and we add this token and we send, we're using a post, we have to get, send again. There we go. So we were able to get the requisition list. If in this case, this user, J Cooler, will be able to see a list of requisition, right? Now, what about authorization? What if J Cooler is now authorized to view the requisition? Because if we go back right here on If you go back on our admin site, we see the group we will see that Jcooler is not on any group. If we go down here, he's not on any group. Of course, he's a super user, right? Let's create another user. Let's create another user, and then that user will not be a super user, because Jcooler being a super user, he might have access. No, he has access to almost everything. But what if we create a new user? Add a user. Hello. The username will be Tequilo. Yes. And the password will be password, unfortunately or fortunately, to make it easier. Let's say password is too common. I'm gonna name it, password will be Tequilo 11. Tequilo 11. It didn't match, so let's do that again. Tequilo 11. Tequilo 11. Oh, god damn it, what am I doing? Tequilo 11, okay, and Tequilo 11. The password is too similar to the username. Oh, okay, I see what's happening. What I'll do. Oh, that's where I'm going. Okay, so we create our username. Username Tequilo. His first name will be Tequilo. Tequilo is that guy from production. The guy that say, "Hey man, I got you. You know, I'll do that. I will submit the requisition form from you." Not knowing that he was infringing on data, integrity, or infringing on data consistency, whatever you call it. Last name, Booze, right? Mr. Tequilo Booze. Cool. He's just active. He's not a staff. He's not a super user. Now we are going to assign Mr. Tequilo. We are going to assign him to the production team, right? And we will also, yeah, he's just in the production team. We're not gonna give him some permission. Let's just save. Okay. Now we had a new user called Tequilo. Tequilo is the guy that likes to party on Thursday. I wanted to say something, but I'm gonna keep it because I'm still waiting for the invitation to go to the church. Please, just send me an invitation. You know my email. You know what I'm talking about. You know my email, send me an invitation. I mean, I don't know what's gonna happen. I just wanna go to church. Send me an invitation. I'll go to the church and listen to the word of God. Glory to God. Okay, cool. Now we add Tequilo, but we need to make sure that Tequilo also is retrieving data from the requisition. Tequilo belongs to the production. Normally, it should be getting or reading. He might read because from the production needs to see the requisition from the procurement. Maybe that's true. Tequilo needs to see. He needs to see, to read from the requisition, but it shouldn't be have the position to write on the requisition table. Let's see what happened. Okay. Now, the authorization we are using the authentication, should I say, we are using for Jcooler. What about Tequilo? Can Takilo read from requisition? Yes, it can. Because right now, the only thing we are using authentication. To read from requisition, you have to be authenticated. Let's do something here. We are going to pass Takilo password is something like this, jcoolmax. We are going to get the token for Takilo. We get the token for Takilo. Isn't crazy that the access token for Takilo is ending with TE? That's crazy, right? That's crazy random. So we're gonna copy, I have to copy all of them. Put it somewhere right here. That's the token for. Okay, so now we are going to test make sure that the username Takilo, and I know that's a funny name, I'm just referring to that guy that liked to drink too much, Don't get me wrong, it is what it is, but so let's make sure that Takilo will be able to retrieve data. So we already get his token. This is his token ending with TE. We copy that. If we go right here, of course, if we wanna get the token from jcool has expired, so we can replace that. I'm using the future auth type directly, which automatically added the token. But if you want to use the traditional way of using that, we used to use authorization, and then on authorization we're gonna use better. We pass the token, which is still the same, and then when I do this, wait, no auth, and then use the header. Why it's now working? Oh, are you telling me Takilo token also expire? I'm not sure that's the case, so I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna copy. I go to get authorization. Authorization. Better. Space token. Send. Oh, it's also expired. Okay, let me try this. Better token. Maybe I'm supposed to pass it right here. Oh, it's also expired. I think it's also expired. Why though? Let's get a new one. Okay, so we got a new one, a new token, right? And we are going to go get. Okay, cool. Oh, I see what's going on. I missed to configure how long the token will last. So let's configure that. The expiration for the token, we need to configure that. So to configure, to make sure that our token will last at least 1 hour or 60 minutes, or even more than that, we have to do some configuration. We call that simple right here on let me go back to, yeah, so we are back on Django framework, simple. We're gonna create a dictionary called simple JSON web token. In that dictionary, we're gonna pass access token lifetime. Okay. Time delta. The time delta here we are using, we're gonna import that from datetime, import time delta, or it's better just to do import datetime. That's the way I do that, so we can use time delta and datetime as well. You're like, what? Yeah, within the module datetime, there is also a function datetime. Datetime, time delta, minutes, 16 minutes. We want to make sure that, you know, I usually do 120, 2 hours. So let's do 120. Refresh token. You know, even if I like using Nox as the token authentication objects, I mean, the simple just web token also makes sense. You know, it's kind of cool. You know, datetime, time delta, minutes, 20. So we want to make the refresh token to the refresh token will last for 20 minutes. That's not me. That doesn't make sense. If the access token, the refresh token has the same lifetime, make sure you protect the refresh token, because if somebody takes the refresh token, they can refresh this and make this useless. Rotate refresh token false. I mean, I can say that true. The rotate refresh token, make sure that the refresh token can rotate, can change. Auth header types. People use better, but I always customize on my own. But we're just gonna use better JSON web token. Okay, so this one will make our token to last a little bit for a couple of minutes, for 2 hours. Okay, now let's go back to continue testing. Make sure that Mr. Takilo will be able to retrieve data from the procurement department. Even if he's not from the procurement department, he will be able to retrieve the requisition form, which is something we want to make sure it doesn't happen. But for some reason now it's gonna happen. Token has expired. Let's get a new token. This one will last for 2 hours. Copy that. No auth. We're gonna use our custom header better. Okay, this one also gonna work. Bingo. So as we can see, Mr. Takilo, the username from the user from the production, will be able to retrieve the requisition form. He can even create a new requisition form if we want to do that. We can do something like this. Requisition post and header authorization better, and this is the token for Mr. Takilo. Takilo, troublemaker. He wanted to save his friends by submitting a requisition form past due, even if it's not part of the system, but because the system is not well designed, you still have access to create a new requisition form. So we are going to send raw data JSON. What are we gonna send? We were sending something. Let me go look at the data we need to send again. We're gonna send the department ID. department ID is gonna be 1. We're gonna send the status, the default is gonna be pending. There's a lot we can do. We can even restrict for somebody to sending a approved status. Right, so approved status may have different property. I don't know if I'll get to that point, but we see what I can. What is justification for products 10 44 18 44? What is status? Okay, that's all we need. Oh, requested by user 2 gonna be the one that requesting that. If we send, as we can see, the troublemaker Mr. Kilo will be able to create a requisition form even if he doesn't have the permission, where on the system he does have permission, but speaking in the context or in terms of business rules, he shouldn't be creating a requisition form on behalf of anybody or himself. Cool. How do we fix that? To fix that, we need to add a permission on our view. We have is authenticated permission class. It's only if authentication, but we need also to add the Django permission. First of all, we are going to make sure that we import the Django from REST framework permission. We're gonna import Django model permission. Okay. If we import Django model permission, we edit right here, and we go on something gonna happen. If we had Django permission and we try to get, let's see what's gonna happen. Let's see. On gates, we are using the token for the user Takilo. We can see we get an error. We're getting an error. I'm gonna show you the error. We're getting something so important. You guys need to know. A lot of people are miss on this one. Of course, you can see an error here. I'm gonna show you. Well, we're getting the query set attributes or get query set method does not exist. So the Django model permission can only work if you have a query set property or get query sets method is implemented. To do that, instead of using getting the requisition right here, we are going to use get objects, self get objects. I know what you're thinking. Why would you use get object right here? Get object is used to get one object. In this case, we are getting a bunch of a list of requisition form. I'll show you what I do. There is always a way to solve that. The first thing we need to do, we're gonna create a query set. query sets, and then we pass requisition objects. Or right now we need to implement the get objects. We need to overwrite the get objects. Get objects. Now, since we are using permission, we need to make sure get object will have a permission. Okay, what we're gonna do, we're gonna check that get object to return a query set. Okay, so query sets equals self gets query sets. The self gets query sets either return a query set or find a property query set on the class. We found our filter. If we are going to filter anything for field in self multiple lookup, this is well implemented on retrieve, but we are not using retrieve. I'm going to show you how we can use that both on retrieve and list. Now we construct our keyword arguments, feed, and a lookup. A multiple lookup can be multiple lookup feed should be something like this. Maybe PK, public key, maybe something like a status, you know. But since we are implementing list and create, we only need gates to get all and the creates to post. So we actually don't need this, but we are going to use it so we can apply permission on each object. I'm gonna show you what I did. So we don't need this. What we're gonna do, we're gonna check, right, if the filter has key, which meaning that if the multiple lookup exists, we get our objects. We are going to filter objects equal gets from Django shortcuts get objects or return not found. Get object return not found. Query sets and filter. What does this do? This filter a query set by something like a filter, you know, feed 1 equal feed B, you know, yada yada. You'll be like, what? Explain to me. I'm gonna explain again. This one does something like this. Query sets, filter A1, B2, C3. This is what it does. This one. This is what it does. Okay? Very simple. Now, self check, we have to check permission, self request objects. What does this do? This one now is applicable on this class. Now we are checking to make sure that the user who's logging or the authenticated user has permission on some verbs like a create, patch, you know, post, patch, delete. If it does, we return the objects. Now, what if we are not filtering anything because we don't have multiple lookup? What are we doing on get object? We return query assets and we're gonna return query set. What query set we're gonna return? We're gonna return everything from here. We save it, and let's go back, try again. Let's say a requisition object has no attributes, multiple lookups. So what we're gonna, because it doesn't have an attribute, we are going to create that. We're just gonna pass multiple lookup equal empty feed. I'm gonna show you what's happened. I'm gonna show what happened. So what happened is that because it doesn't have a multiple lookup, we just create an empty field. I mean, when you are using list creates, there is no way you can find multiple lookup because the list creates return the query set or post. Okay, but we are trying to override so we can bypass that. Okay, let's go try again. Now we can see the user tequila the user tequila will be able, because he's so courageous, he been drinking last night, he just get access to the system and then logging, and then boom, he will be able to get the requisition records. And this should not be allowed. Okay, this should not be allowed. We have to restrict him for getting that. What are we gonna do? By default, any authenticated user has ability to view, but will not have the ability to modify. To do that, we can create a custom permission. Right? Let me go right here on. Let's go back on Django. We want to make sure that Tequilo, which is he's a troublemaker. We want to make sure he'll not be able to view the requisition because he's not from the procurement department. Let's do this. From here, we are going to create a file name permission. And from Django, from REST framework permission, we are going to import Django and we're gonna create a class. We are going to name that custom permission. Custom permission, and this custom permission implements Django permission. Now let's go look at what Django permission does. Django permission defines the verbs that need permission, the allowed verbs on that particular endpoints. We have the required permission being applied, if method and permission, if no method not allowed, which means that the method has to be there. For permission, in permission method, we return required permission. So these are the permission we set. Now we have a as permission. This is the key function that we need to implement to make sure the user has the effective permission to create. And what this method does, if not the user, and the user is not authenticated, and authenticated user only return false. If not, get view, ignore model permission, false, retain true. As permission, user as permission, we set all the permission. So the thing we have to modify the most is we have to modify this function. So I'm gonna copy this function, right? I'm gonna copy it, the as permission. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna do it in such a way we not really be acceptable, but let's do this way. So we're gonna copy as permission. So what are we doing here? We're gonna create permission map. It's a dictionary that contains verbs, and so we're gonna do post. Let me paste this. Right now, it's just the way it's supposed to be, but I'm gonna modify as permission here. Let's go check on the way we add permission. This permission has to be deducted coming from the admin permission, the group permissions. So what we're gonna do, I'm gonna pretty much copy everything except the get. Okay, so let me leave it the way it is because we have okay, cool. Okay, so what I can do something like if the user is authenticated, and if not the user retain false, I can also say elif the user writes and request user not in procurement retain false. Okay, so if the user is now in the procurement group, but how are we gonna get if the user is not procurement? There is a different way you can use that, so you can send these procurements from the view sets instead of hard coding that. But let's do that this way, and let's try and see what's gonna happen. Now, if we try to get let's use the custom permission. From permission import custom permission. So right here, we are using the Django model permission. We are going to replace it with the custom permission, the one we just created. Now let's go test. Now if we try to get, as you can see, the user do not have permission to perform this action. But to make sure that we are right, we're gonna go back on our admin site. So on admin site, we can see that Tequilo is on production, so he's not on procurement. He cannot access. So let's remove Tequilo on production. Let's put him on procurement. I want to make sure the name is the correct name. Okay, procurement. We save Tequilo group procurement. He's not part of the procurement organization unit. Now we're gonna test get. He still cannot get because procurement is not well written. We're gonna go back to our hard-coded name. It's not well written. We have to change that correctly. On our custom permission, procurement has to have a capital P. Procurement, save it. And go back to our front end, to the testing, and test again. Oh, I think that logic was bad. Let's see if we can change the logic. We have to change the logic for sure. Not in procurement, not in the group. If procurement is not in the user group, that's where we're gonna send. We're gonna cancel. Let's try again. G name for G in because it's returning an object. We need to get the name. Okay, let's try that again. This time it should work. There we go. There we go. And this is the punch of the master. Okay, this is the punch of the master. And I'm telling you, I played some part of this tutorial, but I really didn't plan to do this type of code. This one is just experience, because I've been, spending time with Django and Python for a while now. I just know how these things work, right? Now we can see Tequilo being part of a procurement is not able to view procurement. What else? What else can we do? If we do, let's confirm that if we remove him from a procurement, he won't be able to see it. Let's go to the admin. We see the user Tequilo is part of the procurement. If we remove him, we save We check again, it's not part of the procurement anymore. And we go back, and Taquilo is trying to get the list of procurements. He won't be able to view it. And that's the way to do permission. But there is more. You know, I could talk about, but let me show you something. If we go on our custom permission right here, and we go on permission map, we only do posts, right? We only do posts, and then we pass. Okay, so we only do posts, and we pass the property. This means that for somebody to modify these particular objects, or to modify the endpoints that's applying this permission, only the verb created would be applied on this. Even if they use a Taquilo, and I have to create different names so I can separate entity, domains, employees, and their specific roles. Even if the user Taquilo is part of the procurement department, you won't be able to get, because we will remove the property of getting in these custom permissions. Okay, and remember the keywords. Let's go back on the admin. We give, now we assign Taquilo to be part of the procurement team because he likes his friend alcohol, the hangouts, the drink, the party. He's part of the procurement team. We know that now he's part of the procurement key team. Now let's go make sure that Taquilo will be able to view any requisition form records. As you can see, the method get is now allowed because we've removed that from the permission. You see, we've removed that from the permission, and this is one of the way you can apply permission, because we have only post. We can add a delete authorization. There is no authorization without authentication. You need first to authenticate, and authentication is not enough. If you are working with the enterprise application where the authentication is being done by third-party server, like the Active Directory or the Lightweight Active Directory for Linux, you want to make sure that the user will not only authenticate, but they also need to get the proper permission to access specific data. That's about it. Yeah, so we were able to create a custom permission. There is a way you can get these procurements right here. If you guys can take that as a homework, go on your application you be created, make sure you create a property called like a permissions right here, or group, allowed group, something like a allowed group, and pass something like a procurements here, procurements and production, and make sure you send this property back to the custom permission right here. Instead of being static, he has to be set on the view. If you can do that, it'll be something cool. Figure out. Okay guys, that's about it. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.